Lingshan Mountain. Tang Sanzang and his three disciples, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and Xiao Jing, had at last completed their sacred pilgrimage and attained full merit. The Buddha himself presided over the ceremony, bestowing upon them their divine titles. Tang Sanzang as the Buddha of Sandalwood Merit, Sun Wukong as the victorious fighting Buddha, Zhu Beiji as the pure altar envoy, and Xiao Jing as the golden body arhat. Even Xiao Beilong, the white dragon who had borne Tang Sanzang across continents, had shed his serpentine form and been elevated to the rank of the eightfold dragon bodhisattva of vast benefit. At that moment, Lingshan blazed with golden light. Lotus blossoms bloomed across the mountain in radiant profusion. At the foot of the mountain, a gaunt beggar sat gazing up at the luminous peak. His expression held nothing but disdain, yet beneath it flickered something darker, quieter, a faint, unspoken resentment. All three realms noticed the change in the newly crowned victorious fighting Buddha. The once fiery, unruly Monkey King had, upon attaining Buddhahood, vanished into seclusion. Not for decades, not for a century, but for 500 years. He did not return to Flower Fruit Mountain. He did not roam the heavens or stir up chaos as before. Instead, he remained obediently within the mountain temple assigned to him by the Buddhist order, Mount Eme, where he meditated in absolute silence for half a millennium, as still and unmoving as a clay statue enshrined in temple halls, utterly detached from the affairs of gods, demons, and mortals alike. Time passed. The legend of the great sage equal to heaven faded into myth. In the three realms, only a handful still recalled the audacious, heaven-defying monkey. To most cultivators, the victorious fighting Buddha was simply a name, a distant, revered presence atop Mount Eme, a silent sovereign of immense power. In the western Ox Heaven continent, the landscape had transformed utterly since the pilgrimage 5 centuries ago. With Tang Sanzang's party having subdued or eradicated every demon, immortal, and heterodox sect along their path, only Buddhism remained. Monasteries rose like stone forests. Temples echoed with sutras day and night. There were no more fox spirits whispering in moonlit groves, no more mountain immortals brewing elixirs in hidden caves. Only monks, nuns, and faithful devotees bowing before golden Buddhas. A gaunt beggar sat slumped on the ground, too weak to rise, too spent to walk another step. Plop! A coarse, dense flatbread landed before him. He glanced at it, but made no move to pick it up. The bread had been offered by a woman in her 40s. Seeing his indifference, she clasped her hands together and murmured, "Amitabha." At the sound of the Buddha's name, the beggar flinched. His breath hitched, his fingers twitched, but just as quickly, he stilled again. His eyes remained hollow, fixed on the empty sky above, unblinking, untouched. Then rain began to fall. Cold, heavy, relentless. People rushed indoors, slamming shutters and drawing curtains. Only the beggar stayed where he was, motionless, letting the downpour soak through his ragged clothes, wash over his sunken cheeks, stream down his hollow temples. No one knew how long he sat there. Then, a small girl appeared, holding an umbrella over his head, shielding him from the storm. "Why did you become a beggar?" she asked, tilting her head. "You could go to a temple and become a disciple. Then you wouldn't have to sit here, shivering in wind and sun." Her voice was pure, guileless, like dew on a lotus leaf. The beggar hadn't spoken in years, yet now his cracked lips parted. His voice emerged hoarse, raw, and beneath the rasp, unmistakably defiant. "The Buddha is unworthy of my faith." Her eyes widened in shock. "No, you mustn't slander the Buddha. They'll burn you as a heretic." He gave a hollow, bitter laugh and said nothing more. She left the umbrella with him. Moments later, a group of robed monks arrived and gently led her away. From passers-by, the beggar learned the truth. Guanyin Chan Monastery had taken in a new female disciple, born with innate Buddha bone, capable of summoning divine resonance from Guanyin's own statue merely by chanting scripture. Overnight, the monastery's fame had soared. He stared at the umbrella in his hands, and sorrow darkened his face. That innocent girl was gone. He lifted his gaze toward the distant monastery, then turned, gripping the umbrella tightly, and began walking toward a place buried deep in memory, the Western paradise of ultimate bliss. The Buddha opened his eyes. 500 years had passed, yet his cultivation had not advanced, not a single iota. He knew his power had reached its limit. Time itself could no longer deepen his enlightenment. A thought stirred. His expression softened, compassionate, serene. He formed the flower in hand mudra, Golden light shimmered around him. In an instant, a monk clad in saffron robes materialized before his lotus throne and bowed deeply. World-honored one. This was Ananda, his devoted disciple. Ananda, the Buddha spoke slowly, is the elixir complete? It has been 500 years. Ananda pressed his palms together, his face grave. Venerable one, I have refined it continuously for 5 centuries, using the purifying world lapis lazuli flame. Still, the pill remains unformed. But rest assured, within 2 more centuries, it will be perfected. 2 centuries, so be it. The Buddha closed his eyes, his body settling into perfect stillness, as if carved from solid gold. Ananda bowed once more, then dissolved silently into the air. Ugh, tired. So damn tired. My body's falling apart. Damn you, old man. Roo. The beggar groaned, slumping against a tree trunk, cursing under his breath, then abruptly choked off the name he'd nearly spat out. Exhausted, he collapsed beneath the broad boughs of an ancient tree. Above, several monkeys peered down curiously, chattering softly, making faces at this strange, bedraggled intruder. The beggar waved lazily upward. To his own surprise, and theirs, the monkeys scrambled down without hesitation, dropping from branch to branch like falling leaves. Each clutched fruits in their tiny hands, wild peaches, crimson jujubes, golden persimmons, and presented them reverently, as if offering tribute to a king. He stroked their soft fur, took the fruit, and devoured it ravenously. Juice dripped from his chin, staining his tattered beard. Go on, little ones, he muttered between bites. Don't tell anyone you saw me. They scattered instantly, vanishing into the forest like smoke. High above, auspicious clouds drifted past. A flash of gold flickered in the beggar's eyes, then vanished as he shut them, leaned back against the trunk, and fell fast asleep. In the heavens, Guanyin Bodhisattva, seated upon her lotus dais, suddenly opened her eyes. She frowned. Her gaze swept downward, searching, probing, yet found nothing. Bodhisattva, what is it? Behind her stood a youthful attendant, Red Boy, once a fire-wielding demon prince, now a humble, downcast acolyte. Guanyin shook her head. Nothing. Perhaps I imagined it. She paused, then sighed. I felt as though someone watched me, but there is no trace, no aura, no resonance. It must have been illusion. She smiled faintly. Still, how extraordinary. Guanyin shook her head. Nothing. Perhaps I imagined it. She paused, then sighed. I felt as though someone watched me, but there is no trace, no aura, no resonance. It must have been illusion. She smiled faintly. Still, how extraordinary. My monastery has just welcomed a primordial spirit-born disciple. With such innate talent, the Southern Sea Bamboo Grove shall soon gain another master. She turned her attention inward again, dismissing the fleeting sensation. After all, who among the 3 realms could observe her unseen? And why would any of them waste time watching her? Fankin Mountain, Spirit Platform Mountain. The beggar stood before the familiar slopes, breath catching in his throat. After countless trials, endless suffering, he had returned to the very place where it all began. Master, your disciple has come home. He staggered forward, step after trembling step, toward the sloping moon in 3 Stars Cave. It was winter. Snow blanketed the ground, biting and sharp. His bare feet sank into the frost, toes turning crimson. But he felt no cold. Or perhaps, after everything he'd endured, cold no longer mattered. Before the cave entrance, he stopped. Tears welled, hot, sudden, unstoppable. He dropped to his knees in the snow. Inside the cave, Subhuti Patriarch sat immersed in profound meditation. His cultivation so vast, so refined, that he ranked among the strongest beings in the 3 realms. Yet the greater one's power, the harder it became to advance. Even a single breakthrough might require millennia of stillness. Now, he opened his eyes. He raised a finger, traced the threads of fate, and paused. How strange. Wukong is not in seclusion on Emi. Why has he come to the 3 Stars Cave? A flicker of confusion crossed his face. The next instant he was gone, leaving behind only an empty meditation cushion. Wukong? No, this is but a manifestation. Subhuti appeared before the beggar, and froze. The patriarch's expression shifted. Shock, then sorrow, then quiet understanding. Master, the beggar whispered, voice breaking. His eyes brimmed. His body flickered, translucent, unstable, as if barely clinging to form. Come inside, Subhuti said softly, and with a sweep of his sleeve, ushered him into the cave. Inside the cave dwelling, Subhuti examined the beggar's frail body with grave solemnity. Wukong, whose hand forced you to this extremity? Who drove you to split your true spirit in two? Subhuti asked, puzzled. Before him stood not some nameless vagrant, but Sun Wukong himself, the victorious fighting Buddha, who should long since have attained Buddhahood and been sequestered in deep meditation atop Mount Emi. The beggar spoke weakly. Master, the Buddha of the West schemed against me. Sun Wukong then recounted the origin of his calamity. It began 500 years ago, when he was entrusted with protecting the Tang monk on his pilgrimage to the Western Heaven for the sacred scriptures. But after the white bone demon incident fractured trust between master and disciples, the Tang monk banished Wukong from the journey. That departure birthed a doppelganger, the six-eared macaque, who impersonated Wukong, seized the official travel permit, and threw the pilgrimage into chaos. Sha Heshang and Zhu Bei were forced to track down the real Wukong. The two monkeys clashed fiercely, their battle escalating all the way to Vulture Peak, where they demanded the Buddha of the West himself judge which was genuine. At this point, fury darkened Wukong's eyes. I never imagined it was all a trap. That false monkey king, Hearst, was the Buddha's instrument. The moment we entered Vulture Peak, the Buddha pointed at me and declared I was the six-eared macaque. Then, before the entire assembly, cast an illusion that transformed me into him. Buddha of the West, how dare he insult me so brazenly? Subhuti's eyebrows shot upright in outrage. The Buddha of the West, how dare he insult me so brazenly? So he'd acquiesced to the Buddha's plan, permitting these tribulations to unfold. The havoc in heaven, the imprisonment beneath the five-element mountain, though Subhuti had not intervened directly, he'd watched closely, unseen. And when he saw that the Buddhas truly sought only to cultivate and refine Wukong, he'd finally withdrawn in peace to seclusion. He never dreamed the Buddha would seize that very moment of trust, swap Wukong for the six-eared macaque right under his nose. Now, gazing upon his weakened disciple, concern flickered in Subhuti's eyes. Wukong, where is your true body now? In Vulture Peak, Wukong whispered. They've confined it there day and night, feeding it. Lowly flame, trying to refine my essence into nothingness. Had I not secretly split off this sliver of true spirit, I'd have been utterly consumed within another century. My brave child, Subhuti murmured. Rest here a while. Let your master go reclaim what is yours, and settle the score. He wove a formation around Wukong, drawing celestial chi and earthly vitality to nourish the fragile spirit body. Once complete, a cold, lethal light sharpened in Subhuti's gaze, and then he vanished from the three-star cave. Riding clouds toward Vulture Peak, Subhuti had not traveled far when the heavens themselves seemed to shudder. Cosmic threads fraying, celestial patterns twisting. A great power had deliberately muddled the heavenly mandate. Which old friend dares stir the fates so boldly? Why not step forth and show yourself? Subhuti halted mid-air, turning his gaze upon the void. His voice was calm, deceptively mild. Ah, Brother Bodhi, long time no see. From the shimmering air emerged a portly monk, round-faced and ever-smiling. Maitreya Buddha, the future Buddha of Buddhism. So, it's Maitreya. You mean to bar my path? Subhuti said, lips curling in a thin, icy smile. Though Maitreya ranked among Buddhism's highest adepts, his cultivation still fell far short of Subhuti's. Maitreya chuckled softly. Brother, yes, the Buddha of the West erred grievously in Wukong's case. But tell me, do you know why he did so? Why or not, Subhuti replied, voice unwavering. I must still demand justice for my disciple. Maitreya shook his head. Brother, Vulture Peak is a place you cannot enter. Even with all your divine arts, should you set foot there, you risk annihilation. Subhuti's eyes narrowed. A faint, dangerous smile touched his lips. Maitreya, you and your master both sat beside me once in the Xixiao Palace, listening to the primordial Tao. By seniority alone, you and the Buddha are but juniors to me. Have I truly been absent from the three realms so long that you've forgotten who I am? Ah, such wisdom. Of course I know your origins, Brother Bodhi, Maitreya said, still smiling serenely. But please, grant me just one moment to speak. When I finish, if you still insist on going to Vulture Peak, I shall not raise a hand to stop you. Subhuti exhaled slowly and stilled. Very well, Brother Maitreya. Speak. Maitreya bowed slightly. Brother, Vulture Peak today hosts 7 quasi-sages. The Buddha of the West, the ancient Buddha Ran Dung, the medicine Buddha, the great Peacock King Bodhisattva, the great Burning Heaven King Buddha, the Lord Indra Buddha, and myself. When I finish, if you still insist on going to Vulture Peak, I shall not raise a hand to stop you. Subhuti said nothing, only watched Maitreya, silent and unblinking. Maitreya sighed. Brother, do you truly think Wukong could have split his true spirit within Vulture Peak itself, under the watchful eyes of every Buddha and Bodhisattva, and go unnoticed, Cha? This time, Subhuti's expression shifted, sharply. He fixed Maitreya with a piercing stare. It was you! You intervened! Why? Maitreya did not answer. Instead, he withdrew a smooth, unassuming stone from his sleeve. This is Chaos Stone, brother. Without breaking, there can be no renewal. Wukong's tribulation may yet prove his greatest blessing. He placed the stone in Subhuti's palm, and then drifted away like mist. Subhuti stared at the Chaos Stone, his face unreadable. The Buddhist order was no mere sect. It was a colossus spanning the 3 realms. Subhuti stood alone. No sect, no disciples, no institutional weight. His personal might was immense. But even he knew better than to imagine toppling such a titan single-handedly. Fine, he murmured at last. The karmic debt is sealed. One day, reckoning will come. With a sigh, he turned and returned to the slanting moon 3-star cave. Back in his abode, Subhuti held up the Chaos Stone. Wukong, your master will forge you a new true body, using Chaos Stone and the 3-light divine water. Wukong had been born from the heaven-mending stone. Chaos Stone was its pure, unadorned counterpart, same substance, but stripped of the celestial merit embedded in the original. Under Subhuti's sacred artifice, the stone softened, reshaped, slowly forming 3 orifices and 7 apertures. Wukong! A single sharp command. Wukong's spirit jolted and shot forward, merging seamlessly with the stone. Subhuti nodded, satisfied. Then he poured a gourd of 3-light divine water over the form. Next he raised his hands and summoned stellar energy from the heavens, guiding moonlight and starlight to bathe the stone, gently nurturing Wukong's spirit within. In the celestial court, the moon goddess sensed her lunar energies violently siphoned downward. She rushed to investigate, only to recoil instantly upon sensing the terrifying aura behind the pull. With admirable discretion, she pretended she'd seen nothing, and retreated swiftly to her moon palace. 49 days later, on Lingtai Fongkun Mountain, the earth trembled violently. A golden monkey burst forth from the stone in a blinding flash, and somersaulted high into the sky. Ha ha ha! Old Monkey Son is back! He roared to the heavens, raw power surging through him, demanding release. Wukong, come down! Subhuti shook his head, calling softly. At once, Wukong landed before him, and dropped to his knees, bowing deeply. Disciple thanks, Master, for granting me life anew. Subhuti sighed. Foolish child. Yes, this new body holds near equal potential to your original, but your true spirit remains fractured. Without full integration, enlightenment is impossible. We must recover your original body. Wukong's eyes blazed, not with despair, but with fierce, unquenchable fire. Master, I'll storm Vulture Peak now and drag that old Buddha out by his beard. Fool! Subhuti's voice cracked like thunder. After all you've endured, do you still not understand? Even if your strength were fully restored, do you truly believe you could conquer Vulture Peak? Subhuti couldn't help but reprimand him. He had assumed that, after centuries of trials, Sun Wukong would have matured, grown steady, composed, wise. Yet here he was again, arrogant, reckless, utterly unbridled. Seeing Subhuti's anger, Wukong hastily bowed his head and admitted fault. Indeed, those 500 years had changed him. The utter helplessness of being stripped of his powers, the hollow, suffocating void where strength once roared. He never wished to feel it again. When Wukong sincerely apologized, Subhuti's heart softened. After all, this was his disciple, the one he'd raised, trained, cherished. And yet, when the boy had been wronged, Subhuti himself had stood silent, unable or unwilling to intervene. That guilt weighed heavier than any disobedience. How could he scold him further? Stroking his long white beard, Subhuti said quietly, Buddhism has flourished for 5 centuries. Its ascendancy is now complete. Aside from the Taoist sect, no force in the 3 realms can rival it. Wukong, you once held office in the celestial court. Tell me, do you understand the struggle between Buddha and Tao? Wukong scratched his head. The Celestial Court? Aside from Erlang Shen and Nezha, not a single fighter worth mentioning, not even close to the Buddha's disciples. As for the Taoist sect, Laozi, the Supreme Elder, a bloated sack of wind, though I'll grant you, his page boys and steeds do pack some punch. Humph, just as I thought. A true monkey, Saputi muttered, then waved a hand. Instantly, Wukong's fur shimmered, turning silver-white. His face remained unmistakably simian, but transformed, refined, ancient. From now on, walk the world in this form. Observe, truly observe, what lies before your eyes. Return to me when 50 years have passed. With a gentle flick of his sleeve, Saputi dismissed him. Wukong kowtowed deeply, then somersaulted into the air, leapt onto his somersault cloud, and soared away from Lingtai Fankun Mountain. Foolish disciple, Saputi murmured, watching the cloud vanish into the horizon. I've plotted 50 years for you. If within that time you awaken to your true self, if you pierce through illusion and grasp your original mind, we shall march upon Vulture Peak together and demand justice. But if you fail, then your vengeance shall be mine to bear. He turned and walked back into his grotto. At that very moment, Lingtai Fankun Mountain dissolved. Not vanished, not destroyed, but unwritten from the three realms, as though it had never existed. High above the clouds, Wukong rode the somersault cloud, free yet adrift. He had no destination, no plan. My master forbade me from seeking out Ru. He choked the name mid-breath. Rulai, the Buddha. In Lingtai Fankun Mountain, Saputi's sacred domain, no word spoken there could ever reach beyond its borders. But outside, to utter the Buddha's name aloud was to ring a bell in the heavens. If Rulai sensed Wukong's true spirit had escaped Vulture Peak, calamity would follow. Swift, merciless, absolute. If I cannot strike at the Buddha's gate, he mused, then I shall return first to Waguo Mountain, to see my children. 500 years. 5 centuries since he'd last set foot on that sun-dappled slope, heard the chattering laughter of his kin, felt the cool mist of the water curtain cave. A deep, aching homesickness rose in his chest, and with a sharp tilt of his cloud, he veered eastward, straight toward home. If I cannot strike at the Buddha's gate, he mused, then I shall return first to Huaguo Mountain, to see my children. Huaguo Mountain, the water curtain cave, once a thriving, proud kingdom of monkeys, now a fractured wasteland overrun by demons. The monkeys clung desperately to the cave itself, holding only that narrow sanctuary. The rest of the mountain had been carved up like butchered meat. The eastern slopes belonged to Lady Huarui, a flower spirit who ruled with a court of blossoming Yao, her domain a riot of petals, perfume, and poison thorns. The western ridges were claimed by a self-styled Taoist named Wutu Daoren, the black-headed master. Though he wore robes and carried a talisman, his followers were all demons, sly, cruel, and fiercely loyal. He rarely showed himself, yet every demon on the mountain feared him. Whispers called him the strongest being alive on Huaguo Mountain. The southern cliffs had fallen to a sea serpent who called himself Fanjiang Dawa, great king who stirs the waves. A monstrous, scale-armored beast, he feasted on monkeys, had done so for decades. To the surviving apes he was nightmare incarnate, and the north, the narrow circle around the water curtain cave, 50 li in radius, was all that remained to the monkey tribe. Once countless, now barely clinging to existence. Fewer than 10 knew cultivation. The rest? Mere infants, small, wide-eyed, half-witted, trembling in corners. Sigh, great ancestor, groaned a broad-shouldered ape, his voice thick with despair. Before him knelt an ancient white-furred monkey, bowing low before a weathered statue of the victorious fighting Buddha. We've worshipped the great king day and night for 500 years, but he's never answered, never appeared. If this goes on, Fanjiang Dawa will swallow us whole. What are we to do? The old monkey didn't lift his head. His voice, cracked and dry as autumn leaves, trembled with grief and fury. Great king, do you truly watch as your children are devoured? Then show yourself. Just once, just step from the clouds, and these demons will scatter like dust before the wind. This white-furred elder had fought beside Wukong in the war against heaven. He was the last living veteran, and the strongest cultivator left among the monkeys. Yet even he was no match for Fanjiang Dawa. Ha ha ha, old monkey! The great king commands you to surrender 200 monkeys for his banquet tonight! The monkey shrieked and scrambled backward, vanishing behind the waterfall's veil. The white-furred elder stepped forward, gripping a heavy iron staff. His eyes burned. Go tell Fanjang Dawa. Don't push us too far. Our great king is the great sage equal to heaven. If he learns how you've tormented his people, he'll flay you alive and string your sinews across the mountain. He jabbed the staff toward them. Ha ha ha! Great sage equal to heaven? Never heard of him. Old monkey, if your great sage is so mighty, why doesn't he come out and kill me right now? One fish demon roared with laughter, his bulbous, slimy fish head twisting in grotesque delight. The scorn in his voice struck like a blade. The elder's rage exploded. You dare mock the great sage? D! He swung the staff in a whirlwind of fury. Old monkey, if your great sage is so mighty, why doesn't he come out and kill me right now? He fought both at once, driving them back, forcing parries, leaving them breathless, battered, unable to land a single blow. Taste this. One fish demon broke away, spat a gleaming orb from his throat. Light blazed, blinding, searing. The elder cried out, clapping his hands over his eyes. Thwip! The second fish demon lunged. His trident punched clean through the elder's chest. Blood erupted, staining the white fur crimson. The elder flew backward, crashing hard onto the stone path. Great ancestor! 6 young monkeys burst from the cave, brandishing crude staffs. They were the only others who'd begun cultivation. Still weak, barely past the rank of minor demons. Pests! You dare block me, commander of the deep? The fish demon laughed again, and opened his mouth. A torrent of pressurized water blasted forth. 2 monkeys were hurled off their feet, landing limp and bleeding. Before the remaining 4 could react, the other fish demon swept his trident sideways. Static thwack, 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 sending them flying like ragdolls. Oof! Spit! They writhed on the ground, coughing blood, limbs twisted. The elder watched, tears carving dark tracks down his wrinkled cheeks. He had seen Huaguo Mountain at its zenith, had danced beneath banners of gold and jade, had watched Wukong crown himself king beneath the sun. He had never imagined this. His people broken, starving, hunted, reduced to whimpering shadows in their own home. Great sage, where are you? Have you truly abandoned us? His voice cracked. His breath grew shallow. His gaze lifted, up, into the empty blue sky, as his spirit began to fray. Why do I suddenly feel something terrible has happened? Strange. Sun Wukong hovered over the eastern Shenzhou continent, already angling toward the Dragon Palace to borrow a few treasures, when a cold, sharp pang pierced his chest. He paused mid-air, frowning. Is it Huaguo Mountain? Without hesitation, he spun his cloud and shot eastward, faster than thought. Pah! What nonsense! Great sage equal to heaven! If it weren't for that old Taoist Wutu advising our king not to slaughter you all outright, do you really think a few useless monkeys like you could hold on to such a fine grotto? A fish demon sneered, grinding his foot into the old monkey's face. Another fish demon strode straight up to the waterfall curtain grotto, chanted an incantation, and summoned streams that coiled into watery ropes, binding one young monkey after another until over 200 were tethered together. Satisfied with the count, he coiled the rope and began dragging the trembling captives away. Let's go, Yuda. Time to head back. I specially picked out a few tender ones this time. Monkey brain stewed fresh will be delicious. He laughed heartily as he tugged the chain of monkeys toward the water palace, addressing the one still trampling the elder. Yuda, you-er. These 2 demons had no names, or rather, Yuda and you-er were their names. To demons, names meant nothing at all. Great sage, when will you return? Have you truly abandoned us now that you've become a Buddha? The old monkey watched his kin vanish into the distance, blood tears streaming down his cheeks. He was exhausted. For centuries, he'd clung to life only by a single, stubborn ember of faith, and now that flame was guttering out. Pah! Great sage, have you truly abandoned us now that you've become a Buddha? Pah! Great sage, more like a pus-filled boil. If he were half as mighty as they say, how many monkeys do you think our king has devoured over the years? 10,000? 8,000? Yet where's this so-called great sage? Old fool, you'll deliver your quota of monkeys to the water palace on schedule from now on. Saves us the trouble of beating you every time. Yuda jeered, In his eyes, the monkey's loyalty was nothing but absurd folly. What did you just say? A cold voice cut through the air behind him. Yuda froze, then slowly turned, and there, standing atop his brother Yuer's head, stood a silver-furred monkey clad in white robes. Poor Yuer's skull had been driven deep into the earth. Only his flailing feet remained above ground. You! What demon are you? Daring to interfere in Flower Fruit Mountain's affairs? Yu Dao felt a chill crawl up his spine. This monkey's power was unfathomable, and fear, sharp and sudden, pricked at his gut. Sun Wukong burned with fury. The moment he laid eyes on Flower Fruit Mountain, the desolation, the ruin, he felt as though celestial fire seared his very soul. He'd never imagined it would come to this. The mountain's proud masters reduced to livestock. And when Yuda boasted they'd eaten 10,000 monkeys, something inside him snapped. He dropped from the sky like a thunderbolt and crushed Yuer into the soil with one foot. In one fluid motion, Sun Wukong seized Yuda by the throat and hissed, "You! Go tell your king to wash his neck clean. Old Sun's making fish head soup tonight." Yuda stammered, "Fish head soup? But our king's a snake. Where's the fish head? Get out. Tossed street." Sun Wukong flicked his wrist, and Yuda went flying. A minor demon wasn't worth killing yet. Then he yanked Yuer free from the earth. The fish demon spat dirt, dazed and furious, glaring up at the monkey gripping his head. "Damn monkey! How dare you grab the head of Uncle Yuer? I'll boil your brain into porridge the moment I get back." Monkey brain, monkey brain. Sun Wukong's eyes blazed crimson. His fingers tightened, and with a wet crack, Yuer's head tore clean off. His body slumped into a plump carp. The severed head in Sun Wukong's hand became a glistening fish head. You're sent by the great sage to save us?" The old monkey staggered upright. Sun Wukong had taken a new form, so the elder didn't recognize him. Not yet. "I'm Old Sun. Yes, Old Sun is the great sage's sworn brother. I've come in his stead to check on you. Don't worry. Now that I'm here, no one will ever harm you again. I said I'd make fish head soup tonight, and tonight everyone eats fish head soup." His eyes shimmered, but he held fast to Subhuti Patriarch's final command. Never reveal your true identity. So he lied. Just a little. At the Flip the River underwater palace, Flip the River King sat drinking with his guest, General Z of the East Sea Dragon Palace. "Brother," the king boasted, "you have no idea how exquisite Flower Fruit Mountain monkey brains are. The taste is so divine, even immortals can't resist." "Monkey brains?" General C paled slightly. Though only a low-ranking commander, he'd witnessed the great sage's wrath firsthand. Hearing that this wild river snake dared feast on those monkeys sent a jolt of dread through him. "Brother," the king boasted, "you have no idea how exquisite Flower Fruit Mountain monkey brains are. The taste is so divine, even immortals can't resist." "Monkey brains?" Flip the River King missed the shift in expression entirely, assuming instead that his guest simply hadn't tasted such delicacies beneath the waves. He chuckled. "Don't worry, brother. I've already sent servants to fetch some. You'll savor them soon enough." Sweat beaded on General Z's brow. "Brother, tell me plainly, these monkey brains, are they from the waterfall curtain grotto?" The king's eyes lit up. "Ah, have you tried them too?" General Z set down his cup with a sigh. "Brother, you're a fool. How dare you provoke the waterfall curtain grotto? Do you even know who rules it?" Flip the River King threw back his head and roared with laughter. "Their ruler? Some great sage equal to heaven. A grand title, sure, but all bark and no bite. I've feasted on monkey brains year after year, and still no great sage shows up." General Zhai stared at the blissfully ignorant serpent, and silently cursed himself for ever befriending such a reckless, untamed sea snake. He rose abruptly. "Brother, forgive me. I just remembered the Dragon King entrusted me with urgent business. I must leave at once. Tonight's banquet. Let's postpone it." The king frowned. "But brother, I've already dispatched men to the waterfall curtain grotto for the brains. Can't you wait just a little longer?" That sealed General Z's unease. He bowed stiffly. Another day. Duty calls. Farewell, brother. Please, don't see me out." He turned to leave, then froze. His limbs locked. He couldn't move. Fine wine. Exquisite wine. General Z stared. His own seat now occupied by a white-furred monkey, guzzling straight from the wine jug, utterly lost in rapture. Who are you?" Flip the River King recoiled, stumbling backward, bewildered and shaken. Of course, it was Sun Wukong. He drained the last drop, tossed the jug aside, and murmured to himself, "Good wine needs good food. Tonight, old Sun's cooking seafood stew." Your Majesty, Your Majesty, disaster! When I went to the waterfall curtain grotto to seize monkeys, I met him. Yes, him, Your Majesty. Yu Dab burst into the palace, breathless and frantic, babbling about his encounter, until he saw Sun Wukong. His voice died mid-sentence. Flip the River King's face stiffened. He might be uncultured, but he knew this. Any being who could slip into his underwater stronghold unseen, appear beside him without warning, and radiate such terrifying power, was far beyond his reach. "That's him, Your Majesty! That monkey struck me down and killed Yue." Silence. The king barked the order, then turned to Sun Wukong with forced calm. "Esteemed lord, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding?" Sun Wukong glanced at him, then stretched lazily, rising to his full height. "Ready to die? You wretched monkey. Don't push this demon too far. I, the great river-turning king, am no easy target. Today, my elder brother General Crab stands here with me. He's a high-ranking general of the Dragon Palace of the Eastern Sea. Cross us, and you cross the entire Dragon Palace itself. Do you have any idea what fate awaits those who dare provoke the Dragon Palace?" The great river-turning king felt the murderous aura radiating from Sun Wukong, and his face paled. The pressure bearing down on him was overwhelming. "He's a high-ranking general of the Dragon Palace of the Eastern Sea. Cross us, and you cross the entire Dragon Palace itself. Do you have any idea what fate awaits those who dare provoke the Dragon Palace?" General Crab, however, inwardly groaned. Unlike the river-turning king, he wasn't ignorant. He'd served for years in the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace, and had witnessed countless formidable immortals and demons. Yet the aura emanating from Sun Wukong surpassed anything he'd ever encountered before. For a fleeting moment, General Crab thought he glimpsed a golden figure, the same one he'd once seen long ago. "Show me what you've got," Sun Wukong said, grinning. "Otherwise, once I strike, you won't get a second chance." He drew a slow, deep breath. 500 years. It had been 500 years since he last raised his hand in battle. Seeing negotiation was impossible, the great river-turning king snatched up a long whip and roared, lashing it toward Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong lifted a hand and caught the whip midair. "That's it?" A flash of triumph lit the river-turning king's eyes. "Ha! No matter how mighty you are, you've fallen right into my trap. You're already poisoned. This venom can kill even immortals." Sun Wukong did feel a faint tingling numbness in his palm. He opened his hand and saw the skin had turned blue, but the blue faded before his eyes, vanishing as if dissolved by wind. Poison? Against him? What? The river-turning king stared, stunned. He knew Sun Wukong must be stronger than ordinary immortals, but to dispel his venom so effortlessly? He'd never seen anything like it. "I'm done playing." In a blur, Sun Wukong vanished and reappeared directly before the river-turning king. With a single punch, he struck the demon square under the jaw. Spurt! The river-turning king shot upward from the underwater palace, soaring high into the air. Before he could steady himself, Sun Wukong had already soared above him and delivered a thunderous flying kick. Boom! The river-turning king crashed headlong into the seabed, and instantly reverted to his true form, a deep-sea venomous serpent. His scaled body writhed frantically, slithering toward the open sea. Sun Wukong flickered, vanished, then reappeared directly in front of the serpent. Trapped! The serpent lunged, fangs bared. Humph! Sun Wukong snorted coldly, seized the serpent by the throat, and swung it like a club, smashing it into the swarm of minor demons rushing toward him. Ah! Thwip! 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 These were mere aquatic creatures the river-turning king had barely enchanted, no match at all for Sun Wukong's might. In moments they all reverted to their original forms. Fish, shrimp, crabs, and bizarre sea-dwellers of every shape and size, scattered across the floor like spilled harvest. When Sun Wukong finally stilled, only one being remained breathing in the entire river-turning palace, the crab general, still frozen in place by a body-immobilizing spell. Sun Wukong tossed aside the river-turning king's lifeless corpse, now just a limp, coiled serpent, and strode straight toward the crab general. The spell broke. The crab general found himself able to move again, but dared not stir. He knew, without doubt, that this monkey moved faster than he ever could. Great King, mercy, mercy! The crab general collapsed onto both knees before Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong studied him. You hail from the Dragon Palace of the Eastern Sea? The Crab General nodded frantically. Yes! I serve as a patrol general of the Eastern Sea! Sun Wukong inhaled sharply, and his face darkened with fury. If you're truly a patrol general of the Eastern Sea, why do you consort with demons? The Crab General faltered. His true form was a sea crab. Before his appointment, he'd been nothing more than a demon himself. Speak. Sun Wukong kicked him hard, sending him sprawling. All these years, he'd considered the Eastern Dragon King a friend, and now he intended to clean house on behalf of that friend. The Crab General mumbled. I was wrong. But great king, aren't you a demon? Then tell me, what are you? What immortal or deity trained you? Sun Wukong froze. He looked down at himself. Sharp muzzle, sunken cheeks, fur white as snow. What am I? A Buddha? No. An immortal? Not quite. For years, he'd called himself the great sage equal to heaven. But long before the Celestial Rebellion, the Jade Emperor had stripped him of his celestial register. Without that register, wasn't he too just a demon? That's right. I am a demon. So why do I scorn demons? He recalled escorting Tang Sanzang westward, slaying demons along the way. Yet how many true demons had he actually killed? Very few. Most of the great demons he'd faced bore ties to heaven or to the Buddha's realm. What is a demon? What is an immortal? And what truly is a Buddha? Countless questions surged through his mind. He remembered Subhuti Patriarch's final instruction. See the world clearly. Had he misunderstood everything all along? The Crab General watched Sun Wukong's aura churn violently, his eyes flashing crimson, his breath ragged. Alarmed, he thought the Monkey King was slipping into demonic madness, and bolted. But Sun Wukong didn't notice. He was lost in memory, tracing his life from birth to the day the Buddha's palm sealed him beneath the mountain of 5 elements. Born carefree, a handsome, joyful Monkey King. Seeking immortality, he crossed the sea, found Master Subhuti, and mastered unparalleled arts. Back then, though a demon king, he lived without worry, roaming mountains, visiting friends, reveling in freedom. Then came the summons from Lord Tai Bai, the invitation to heaven. He became an immortal, albeit a humiliating one, the lowly stablemaster. Yet even then, tending horses, he hadn't been unhappy. Only when he learned his rank meant nothing did he rebel, declaring himself the great sage equal to heaven. Then came the celestial uproar, the imprisonment beneath 5 Elements Mountain, the journey west with Tang Sanzang, and finally, the Buddha's hidden betrayal. What does it matter, immortal or demon? I am me. I am Sun Wukong, the one and only great sage equal to heaven, under heaven and upon earth. Clarity pierced his mind. He gathered lightning in his palm and hurled it after the fleeing Crab General, who'd nearly reached the open sea. Zest! The bolt struck true. The Crab General dropped dead, leaving behind only a charred, bright red crab. Bring these back for the children to feast on. Sun Wukong murmured a spell, and performed the sleeve containing all heaven's technique, sweeping every fish, shrimp, and sea creature into his sleeve. The art had been taught to him by Zhen Yuanzi, the patriarch of Earth Immortals, during their sworn brotherhood. Though Sun Wukong wasn't adept enough to capture people with it, stuffing seafood? Effortless. Back at the waterfall cave, he flicked his sleeve, and plump fish and fat shrimp tumbled out in a glittering heap. The monkeys stared, dumbfounded, then scrambled up the walls, trembling, faces pale with terror. Sun Wukong gazed upon them, and his heart twisted. Once, the Flower Fruit Mountain monkeys had been bold, spirited, proud. Now they looked like nothing but wild, frightened beasts. An old monkey spotted the bloodied sea serpent among the catch, and suddenly understood. He sank to the ground and wailed, sobbing uncontrollably. Sun Wukong bristled with irritation. Silence! There are several of you! Now go prepare these fish and shrimp! Sun Wukong bristled with irritation. Silence! All of you! Now go prepare these fish and shrimp! Cook me a meal! The old monkey prostrated himself. Thank you, benefactor. The great river-turning king slaughtered tens of thousands of our kin. From this day forward, you are our eternal savior, the honored patron of the waterfall cave of Flower Fruit Mountain. When our great sage returns from M.A. Mountain, we shall invite him personally to thank you. M.A. Mountain. A glint of ice flashed in Sun Wukong's eyes. He knew exactly who waited there. The monkey the Buddha had placed in his stead. The true 6-eared macaque. Gulp. Eat up. This crab as plump as can be. The monkeys of Shilian Cave hadn't eaten their fill in ages. Now, Drunk beyond measure, they lay sprawled on the ground, bellies up, limbs splayed, muttering drowsily through slurred lips. Great Sage! Sun Wukong's eyes glistened. The monkey tribe of Huaguoshan had long since turned over. Only the old monkey remained from the generation that had once followed him. Old monkey, the monkeys of Huaguoshan were supposed to be free from life and death. I'd had my brother strike their names from the book of life and death. So why did they still die? His voice trembled, not just with sorrow, but with dread, for he saw it now. A faint, ashen pallor creeping across the old monkey's face. The unmistakable aura of waning years. The old monkey had drunk deeply too, yet his cultivation kept him lucid enough to answer. With a long, weary sigh, he said, "My benefactor, call me Giulianer. That was the name the great sage gave me." Giulianer! A memory flickered in Sun Wukong's mind, the day he'd returned from his training, bearing a name of his own, and bestowed names upon every monkey and monkey child in Huaguoshan. Giulianer had been no more than a wobbly-legged infant then. Now, Giulianer spoke again, voice low and hollow. Strange, isn't it? 500 years ago, our kind were truly immortal. But after that thick fog rolled over Huaguoshan 5 centuries past, immortality slipped away like mist at dawn. Our elders aged swiftly, withered, and died. Within a century, every single monkey who'd once stood beside the great sage, fighting heaven, defying earth, had crumbled to dust. Again, 500 years ago. Sun Wukong clenched his fists. This reeked of deliberate sabotage, and only one power knew precisely when he'd fallen. The Buddhist sect. Looks like this old monkey king will have to pay the underworld another visit. Inside Chulian Cave, the monkeys, sated and merry, tumbled into sleep wherever they fell. Some curled beneath stalactites, others draped over stone benches. Even Giulianer, drunk beyond reason, clutched a stone stool and snored softly. Sun Wukong stepped outside. Moonlight spilled silver over the cliffs, silent and ancient. His thoughts churned. This return to Huaguoshan wasn't merely nostalgic, it was strategic. First, he would purge the mountain of its petty demon lords, ensuring the monkey tribe could thrive even in his absence. Through Giulianer, he'd already learned their names. Lady Huorui, the Taoist Master Wudo. Insignificant pests, barely worth a glance. Why not deal with them now, while the young ones sleep? He weighed the idea. Yes, these demons had spilled monkey blood for decades in his absence. Better to end them tonight. Just as he raised a foot to leap, a chill wind sliced across his back. He whirled. There, under the moon's pale gaze, stood Giulianer, eyes vacant, soul tethered by iron chains gripped in the bony hands of the black and white impermanents. They dragged him silently toward the horizon. Black and white impermanents. You seek death. Rage flared, but Sun Wukong checked himself. Instead of striking, he shut his eyes tight, feigning slumber, while his Yuanshan, nascent soul, slipped unseen from his body, trailing the 2 specters like smoke. White impermanence paused mid-step. A shiver ran down his spine. He turned, staring straight at Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong didn't stir. Breath slowed. Pulse stilled. He became nothing more than a sleeping white-furred monkey. Brother, asked Black Impermanence, puzzled. What's wrong? White Impermanence shook his head. Odd, that monkey gives me a strange feeling. Black Impermanence shuffled forward, squinting. He circled Sun Wukong twice, sniffed the air, found nothing amiss. Satisfied, or rather impatient, the Black Impermanence waved a hand. A rift tore open before them, jagged, yawning, exhaling the scent of damp earth and decay. The 2 spirits pulled Giulianer's soul through, and vanished. Unseen, a sliver of shadow slipped in behind them, just as the rift sealed. The underworld feels different now, stronger. Sun Wukong drifted deeper into the realm of the dead. No sooner had he crossed the threshold than several oppressive presences swept over him. Cold, ancient, terrifyingly potent. He froze. Then, shimmer. His form dissolved and reformed. A blank-eyed, slack-jawed ghost, shuffling silently into the endless queue of souls filing toward Fengdu Ghost City. Only when those chilling gazes receded did he dare exhale. Wait, where's Giulianer? He scanned the throng. Gone. Vanished. A knot tightened in his gut. A green-skinned, fang-bared minor spirit, spear in hand, eyes burning crimson, stepped forward, suspicious. Sun Wukong met his stare, and with a subtle pulse of Mihunji Shu, soul confusion art, The spirit's pupils glazed over. "Who are you?" Sun Wukong asked, voice flat. "I'm Lier," the spirit droned. "Where are the black and white impermanents?" The spirit nodded. "They dwell in the Hall of Impermanence." "Take me there." Sun Wukong shifted shape, becoming instantly another minor spirit identical to Lier. Lier led the way. Sun Wukong followed, silent, observant, and grew steadily more unsettled. This underworld bore no resemblance to the one he'd shattered 1,000 years ago. In half an hour, he'd passed 3 demonic generals, each radiating the aura of a Zengxian, true immortal. Lier named them Leopard Tail, Yellow Wasp, and Birdbeak, the 3 yin marshals of the underworld. "Strange," Sun Wukong murmured. "The 10 Yama Kings themselves are only Zenshian level. How do their subordinates match them?" Back then, Sun Wukong had been a Taiyi Jinxian, Grand Ultimate Golden Immortal, a force that had reduced the entire underworld to chaos. He dismissed its power as trivial. Now, he felt the weight of something new, something dangerous. In the 3 realms, cultivators ascended through 6 tiers: Mortal Immortal, Celestial Immortal, True Immortal, Grand Ultimate Golden Immortal, Great Luo Golden Immortal, and finally, the Supreme Primordial Great Luo Golden Immortal, also called the Supreme Primordial Sage. Between the Great Luo and Supreme Primordial tiers existed a unique liminal rank, the Quasi-Sage, weaker than a Supreme Primordial Sage, yet vastly superior to any Great Luo. Lier, a mere grunt spirit, had no answers. They pressed on, until the mist-thick banks of the Nea Bridge came into view. At its center, an old woman stirred a vast cauldron. Her head lifted, their eyes met. Sun Wukong's breath caught. That gaze, calm, bottomless, infinitely knowing, sent a jolt through him, sharp as lightning. It was the exact same feeling he'd known standing before his master, Patriarch Subhuti. The old woman lowered her head, stirred again, as if she'd seen nothing at all. "Is this really Mengpo? Why does she feel different?" Sun Wukong scratched his head, just as Lier slipped off the bridge's side path and onto the narrow trail beyond. Sun Wukong lunged to follow, and froze mid-step. Mengpo's voice cut through the mist, soft as silk, clear as ice. "Step onto the Naya Bridge, and worldly heart dissolves. Tread the path of unceasing suffering, and mortal dust is cleansed." Sun Wukong turned. She still stirred, still stared into the steam, as if the words had never left her lips. "At Naya Bridge, path of unceasing suffering. Is she telling me I stock should cross the bridge?" Sun Wukong's eyes flickered with shifting expressions as he paused in thought. After a moment, he withdrew his foot from the narrow path, and with a shimmer of movement, strode onto the bridge of helplessness. The instant his soles touched the bridge's ancient stone, a torrent of memories surged into his mind. Every event of his 1,000-year existence unspooling before him, like a scroll replayed in perfect sequence. Unbeknownst to him, the very moment he stepped onto the bridge, his form subtly reshaped itself, reverting, without fanfare, to its original state, the Lingming Stone Monkey. Mengpo watched, a faint smile playing on her lips as Sun Wukong's aura wavered unevenly. With a graceful flick of the ladle she used to stir the soup, she dispelled his fluctuating energy entirely. Deep within the underworld, in the shadowed peaks of Yin Mountain, the realm of hell, lay a monstrous beast, tiger-headed, single-horned, of the Qilin lineage. Its eyes snapped open, one black, one white, unnerving in their stark duality. "Dieting, what is it?" A venerable monk with gentle features opened his eyes, sensing the creature's sudden agitation. This was Dieting, the celestial hound famed for hearing all truths, and the monk beside him was none other than Chittagarbha Bodhisattva, who had vowed, "Not until hell is emptied will I attain Buddhahood." "Venerable one," Dieting replied, its ears twitching ceaselessly, straining as if listening to something far beyond mortal perception. "I just sensed a familiar aura on the bridge of helplessness." Sun Wukong walked slowly, each step triggering another vivid recollection, as though every footfall forced him to relive his past anew. Not letting you ruin things, you beast," Mengpo murmured softly, a sly smile curling at the corner of her mouth, as if sensing something unseen. She tapped her ladle once against the cauldron, simmering with her famed broth. "Arg!" In Yin Mountain, Dieting let out a guttural cry of agony. Blood welled from both ears. Kshitigirba's expression darkened instantly. He raised a hand and cast a golden halo of Buddha light over the suffering beast. "Venerable one," Dieting whispered, casting one last glance at the bodhisattva before collapsing into unconsciousness. Amitabha, Mengpo, this goes too far. Realizing her hand was behind the assault, Kitagaba rose to confront her, only for a fresh wave of malevolent spirits to erupt from behind Yin Mountain, hurling themselves violently against its slopes. With no choice, the bodhisattva sighed and began chanting sutras, his voice resonating with calm authority to subdue the riotous dead. The Buddha's gate. So many schemes, yet all ultimately illusory. Perhaps this is the perfect moment to drive them from the underworld altogether. Mengpo glanced toward Sun Wukong, her expression tinged with quiet amusement. As scene after scene replayed, a strange new awareness bloomed within him. This feels like a setup. At last it struck him. His entire life had unfolded inside a carefully constructed design. Since his birth, fortune had favored him without fail. When he sought cultivation, a simple bamboo raft carried him safely across the vast eastern sea, despite being nothing more than an ordinary monkey, with no skill, no magic, no protection. Even great ships capsized in those waters, but his flimsy raft sailed unscathed from Dongsheng Shenzhou to Xinyu Hexu. He'd never questioned it before. But now, watching his own memories unfold again and again, he saw the cracks. He took another step, and the memory of crossing the sea reappeared. This time he watched closely, and there, hovering high above him, silent and watchful, was a blue-green bird, circling steadily until he entered the Xiyue Sanxing Dome, Slanting Moon, 3 Stars Cave. Only then did it vanish. Huff! Sun Wukong stepped off the bridge of helplessness, transformed once more into a lowly ghostling. He glanced back at Mengpo, still bent over her cauldron, stirring methodically. A flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. Let's go. He turned to Lear, the small ghost who'd been waiting for him. Lear led him onward. Along the way, spectral officers of varying ranks passed to and fro, some clad in ink-black robes, others in bone-white armor. Sun Wukong noticed something odd. Many bore the unmistakable features of the black and white impermanence officers. They're clones, he realized. Their soul-reaping duties are carried out through projections, not the originals. Your Excellency, ahead lies the Hall of Impermanence. Lear halted before a towering, gloom-draped palace and gestured respectfully. Good, thank you. Sun Wukong bowed slightly, then exhaled gently upon Lear. The ghost crumpled instantly. Sun Wukong concealed the body, then transformed himself seamlessly into Lear's likeness, and strode boldly toward the hall. Who goes there? A horned demon guard barred his path, spear leveled, voice dripping with menace. I'm Lear, Sun Wukong replied meekly. I bear urgent business for the Impermanence Lords. The demon barked laughter. A low-born wraith dares ask audience with a shadow marshal? Scram, or I'll swallow you whole. Sun Wukong's eyes flashed crimson, but he held his temper. Before the bridge, he might have smashed straight through the gates. Now? He turned and walked away. At the corner, he dissolved into a wisp of black mist and drifted silently toward the hall. Inside, the horned demon bragged loudly to his fellows about how he'd just intimidated some pitiful underling, apparently scaring off a minor ghost ranked among his greatest triumphs. Hearing this, Sun Wukong shaped a fine needle from his own chi and jabbed it squarely into the demon's rear. Ugh! The demon's cobalt face twisted sickly green. His eyes bulged. A choked groan escaped his throat. Duo Jiao, what's wrong? What happened? Duo Jiao! As the others rushed to his side, Sun Wukong slipped past unnoticed, into the Hall of Impermanence. Once inside, he shifted form again, this time assuming the horned demon's exact appearance, and strode forward with arrogant ease. The hall stood empty, save for 2 thrones placed side by side, one black, one white. Sun Wukong dropped into the black throne. On the desk before it lay a stack of scrolls. Curious, he picked one up. Ho, Saxxong Ning, native of Fanyang. Died on the 11th day of the first lunar month. Lived 71 years. Saxxlaluga from Aolai Kingdom. So, it's the Book of Life and Death. He smiled, then froze. But shouldn't this be kept by Yama himself? Why did the Impermanence officers hold it? His brow furrowed, just as 3 powerful Xian essences approached the hall. So, it's the Book of Life and Death. But shouldn't this be kept by Yama himself? Why do the Impermanence officers hold it? Without hesitation, Sun Wukong shrank into a single monkey hair and settled silently onto the floor. Moments later, the black and white Impermanence officers entered, followed by a white-robed immortal. He wore a purple sash celestial robe and bore a sword across his back. His manner was relaxed, even jovial, as he exchanged pleasantries with the two specters. "Brother Fan, Brother Z, I must trouble you both this time." He bowed lightly. Clearly, he sought their aid. White Impermanence chuckled warmly. "Brother Lee, why such formalities? We've leaned on you often enough. Helping you is our honor." They seated themselves on their respective thrones. The immortal took the chair opposite them. His manner was relaxed, even jovial, as he exchanged pleasantries with the two specters.